From County College of Morris, this is CCM All Access.
Hello, and welcome to CCM All Access, the show that brings you news and information from the County College of Morris. Students on campus, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm Mitchell Etta, and joining us today is Nieves Gruniero, who is the Dean of Liberal Arts here at CCM. Welcome.
Thank you.
So tell me, what exactly is the study of liberal arts, and what does it entail?
The study of liberal arts has been historical in the sense that the idea of the liberal arts or liberal studies basically came with the age, even before the Enlightenment, with the ancient Romans and Greeks. And it is to give people a full scope of knowledge so that they're able to live informed lives and be informed and engaged citizens in the world.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the vision of liberal arts here at CCM.
The vision is to provide that overall framework to prepare students for a future that is hopefully fulfilling. So you get to learn about many different areas. So instead of having expertise in one area, you learn a lot about many things so that you're able to then take that knowledge and apply it at whatever stage in life and whatever career you choose to be in.
So liberal arts, you could say, is a very broad major.
It is it's a very broad major, tied a lot to culture and how culture functions, how culture thinks, how culture moves.
Okay. What about the mission of liberal arts here at CCM?
Well, the mission, of course, encompasses the greater mission of the college in providing a quality education for our neighboring, areas, counties at an affordable price. The mission also then, a lot of the liberal arts, many students find what they think of as their general education. So on top of their general education, they then are able to study other subfields like psychology and sociology. So we align with the mission overall, and then the mission of the liberal arts is, again, to continue to cultivate that idea of a knowing citizen in the world.
What would you say is the mission at liberal arts differ from other majors here at CCM? Like, is it similar to other majors, the mission statement? Is it all around the same, or is it?
We all, I guess, sort of pivot within the mission of the college, which is, quality education at an affordable price point. But then the mission of the liberal arts is really that more of I could say humanistic bent, because that's what the liberal arts say encompass, mostly the humanities and the social sciences. Mm-hmm. So it is about learning about history and culture and all the ways that that gets embedded into daily life. So it isn't necessarily studying just, for example, you mentioned you were a business administration major, mm-hmm. So you're totally immersed in business. In liberal arts, you could study languages or literature, psychology, sociology, music, or the arts. So you could create your own sort of like space of knowledge spheres that you want to concentrate on.
Okay, I understand. You became the Dean of Liberal Arts here at CCM in July 2021. How did it feel to earn that position?
It felt exciting and strange. I had been teaching for over 21 years, so all of a sudden I'm outside of the classroom, and now I'm in the office, and I'm at the level where I'm thinking through strategy, how do we advance the liberal arts, student success, things that need changing, things that need improving, connections and dots. So it was, again, exciting and nerve-wracking, but wonderful, wonderful ways to sort of think about how to incorporate the liberal arts into the broader community here at CCM.
So it was a nice step up from the old position that you were in, you could say.
Definitely a new challenge, and I'm the type of person, I love new challenges.
So you were previously leading the Department of Art and Design as chair and professor of photography. What was that like?
That art and design is a pretty big department here on campus. We have a huge footprint. So we have gallery shows, student portfolios. We have within art and design, graphic design, photography, industrial, interior, architecture, visual arts, and probably a couple of other ones that I'm forgetting right now. So it's a pretty comprehensive department. So moving from actually being chair of art and design into dean, I had already touched upon a lot of the operational components here at the college, but I loved being the chair of art and design.
What are some of the departments that fall under liberal arts, and why are they important?
They're each important for many different reasons. So, of course, you have art and design, my home department. Those are your, in many ways, the ones that are completely tied to cultural production. So we have your graphic designers, photographers, architects, interior designers, industrial designers. You know, oftentimes we don't think about, the watch that you wear, that was designed. We have the visual artists. We have our animators as well within the art and design department. Then within music, we have your musicians, your performing arts students. So again, another big sort of like part of culture. Then we have the English department that not only touches on literature, but also forms as general education as well. You all take Comp 1 and Comp 2. Mm-hmm. We have sociology, psychology. Those are very popular career fields. Mm-hmm. Then we have anthropology, economics. We have languages, incredibly important. We have communication. So we're sitting here in the Alex Croce Media Center, and of course many of our journalism and our media and broadcasting students come and work here as well. Let me see, who am I forgetting within liberal arts? That's another pressure point. So I mentioned languages, communications, sociology, psychology, education. We also have the education majors within liberal arts as well.
So liberal arts you could say, can be found in many different departments. Like liberal arts is not its own one thing. Liberal arts is found in a lot of different studies in a way.
Absolutely. So within all your majors, you have some kind of humanities components, maybe a social science component, okay. And of course you take Comp 1 and Comp 2.
Yeah.
And then the liberal arts degree is sort of like that broader base of knowledge and sort of just knowing about the world. And while you're studying business administration, many other people do go into business and become CEOs or lead nonprofits that were a liberal arts major, because they sort of come at the problem from a different kind of sort of strategies and worldviews.
Okay, thank you. Which department of liberal arts is your favorite to study and why?
Wow, well, here I'm going to get in trouble, because if I name one, it's like naming your favorite child or your favorite pet, right? So they're all different for many different reasons, but I'm going to stick with my home department, visual art and design, and photography in particular, because that's where I came from, and I still love especially my photo people.
Yeah, you have that background, so of course you would prefer to study that one over other.
But I love them all.
But you love them all,
the
of course.
The politically correct answer, I love them all.
I saw there was a list of historical names on the School of Liberal Arts page, such as Shakespeare, Plato, Picasso. Why is it important to study their works, even nowadays in the 21st century?
They're still really relevant to what happens in the world. You know, Shakespeare's plays, you know, when you talk about the war plays, I mean, you talk about everything that's happening now in the world in Ukraine. So when you study Shakespeare's plays, you have the historical plays, you have the comedies, a lot of the same sort of like tropes and ideas, you could go back and reference Shakespeare. When it comes to Plato, you said, right, instead of Socrates, so we chose Plato. Same thing with the idea of Platonic ideas, the study of philosophy, all those ideas that, you know, stem from, you could say, the fathers of philosophy, we still incorporate into our daily lives. And then, of course, there was Picasso. Picasso was a name that I think most people know when you think of an artist. But one thing that I like to sort of plug for Picasso, again, coming back as my art background, Picasso was someone that changed painting styles throughout his career. So when you look at Picasso's work, he always experimented and he always grew. He wasn't the type of artist that just stuck to one style. He had a pulse on culture and the younger generations, and he grew with them. So Picasso's a really great one to name because of that growth.
So it's very important to also appreciate the past of things that relate to liberal arts, while also current events and things that are going on nowadays, you could say.
Absolutely. The past shapes the present, and then you take what the past taught us and you continue on.
What are some jobs that one can apply for that look for a background in liberal arts?
Well, there are the programs within liberal arts like communication, teacher education, musicians, performing arts, musical theater. So those have already embedded in them. It's sociology, sociologists, psychologists. Those already do have embedded career tracks in them. But then the broader liberal arts degree, they could do anything. For example, Conan O'Brien is a history major. Oprah Winfrey was a communication major. So you have all different types of people that study the liberal arts, and they're all in different fields. So, for example, Steve Jobs talks about the importance of the liberal arts in problem solving, even in business and technology and innovation. So a liberal arts major really could apply to any type of job, and oftentimes many corporations look for liberal arts major because of that broad-based knowledge and problem solving skills.
So how important would you say is maybe having some sort of business background as well as liberal arts? Is it good to have some sort of business background as well if you're applying for a job that also deals with liberal arts majors?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of liberal arts. Whether you're here at the college or when you transfer, if you do want it to go into a more specific field, you could study business, you could further study economics. So once you leave the two-year degree program here, you might have an area that is more of a focus for you, so then you go take more classes, and absolutely, you could merge business and the liberal arts, economics, sociology, psychology, history, and so forth.
Okay. Thank you. And now we're going to take a break. Please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
I'm Andrea Lucia, a graduate of County College of Morris. At CCM, I gained a high-quality education, was involved with clubs on campus, and performed university research in tissue engineering. My CCM education prepared me for ongoing success. Today, I am at Cornell University, studying engineering and performing research in cardiac tissue engineering. The professors and staff at CCM helped me to start right and finish strong.
And we're back on CCM All Access. I'm Mitchell Etta, and we're here with Nieves Gruniero. So let's continue off. Would you say liberal arts gained more popularity over the last decade? Why or why not?
It waxes and wanes. So STEM has become very popular, but the liberal arts still remain very popular for those reasons, that it's championed by many people because it's the broader sort of like study of humanity. And people still come to college. You know, when you're 18 or 19, you may not know exactly what you want to study. So liberal arts really provides that opportunity to think and grow about who you want to be as a person while you're still learning about the world and history. So wanes and waxes, and I think we're back on the upswing.
Now you mentioned STEM. Back in high school, when I was in high school, there was a STEM academy. What does STEM stand for, and how does it relate to liberal arts?
STEM doesn't relate to liberal arts. So STEM, I believe, is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember my STEM, but STEAM has become very popular as well. So STEAM, then the A incorporates the arts.
Gotcha.
So it's that sort of like idea of problem solving and using creativity to solve problem.
Okay. What are some things you would like upcoming generations to know about liberal arts?
That we're great. So really bad answer. So the thing about the liberal arts is, again, that idea to learn a lot about different ways of thinking and being in the world. So you could take literature courses so that you could learn about not only Shakespeare, but many other things that have been written. And when I say literature, sort of like including that, graphic novels are also a rich part of literature. Introduction to film courses where you could learn about the history of film. And I know, being a business major, for example, there's a course we have on the psychology of leadership. So the liberal arts really sort of informs all the other areas by providing all those other ways of thinking and being in the world. So you think about business administration and leadership, but there's a psychology to leadership and how to be a leadership. So the liberal arts does provide that extra base of knowledge for people to work with.
So literature and history almost tie in with each other. They work hand in hand, because there's a lot of writing in English classes. There's also a lot of writing in history classes. Is that correct?
Correct. And then communication, writing, and publicly speaking like we are here right now, right? That also translates into all types of skills, business skills, technology skills, because in your future you will be working in teams, you will be speaking publicly or speaking to a group, and that's really the fundamental foundation of the liberal arts. It does provide those problem solving, those communication skills that every major needs.
Okay. Since you are fairly new to being the Dean in Liberal Arts, in what direction would you like to go with this?
I'd like to continue to raise the profile of the liberal arts. Exactly that, so what are the liberal arts for? Or even if you are a business administration major, we do have, for example, other ways for you to be involved. So we do have our speech lab. So if you did want to, for example, you have a presentation or you have a job interview coming up, you could practice your skills on how to publicly speak. So we can make those connections to other parts on campus. We just recently started a podcast with the communication and journalism majors. So that's another thing that's really wonderful, broad topics. So a lot of connections that we can make to not only the students here at CCM, but to the public at large. And the liberal arts is really the home where we speak about a lot of the social problems that we have right now, whether it is political polarization, whether it is about the sort of injustices in the world, and speaking about social justice. That in many ways is home to the liberal arts. So we are constantly part of important conversations.
Okay. Thank you. So I have here, we were talking earlier, not on camera, but we were talking about video games in liberal arts and how they could almost correlate in a sense historically. Even there are some video games that maybe literaturely might correlate to video games. So can you describe that to me?
Yes, I've heard students, for example, like I said, I wasn't a gamer, but I am fascinated, fascinated by games. So for example, before we go into sort of the historical content, I was teaching a class in photogrammetry, and that's when you use photographs to create a space, and then, or photograph a space, and then that is replicated. So you take all the geolocation information and you create a 3D model. So I know that one of the last couple of Star Wars game releases, they have a lot of it has been based in photogrammetry. Yeah. So that's a really sort of like interesting connection to the liberal arts. But then the other part that I've heard my students in class, they've played a game, but they're also history nerds or geeks, and they're like, well, this happened, but that didn't actually happen strategically or tactically in this game. Okay. So they're using, a lot of video games, especially the ones that do involve some kind of combat or war element, they are looking at historical, they are looking at history, and they are looking at specifically the history of war and how that played out. So if you're a gamer and you love particular sort of like history and war and strategy, it's like, oh, that really didn't happen during World War I, or that wasn't part of World War II.
So even though video games might not historically be 100% correct, they still portray similar aspects of what actually happened and what it was like in those past times.
Absolutely. I mean, I was a Game of Thrones fan, not to the point where I was sort of like, looking at everything that people were writing, but I even do remember that during some of the battle scenes in Game of Thrones, there was a lot of social media back and forth about, oh, they were using this and it happened in this battle, but then it didn't happen this way. So yeah, sort of like in storytelling, we always go back and think about and incorporate other elements of all these other sort of like rich disciplines within liberal arts.
What are some other famous historical names in liberal arts? Before I mentioned Shakespeare, Plato, and Picasso. The list goes on, but what are some other names and how they relate to this?
Well, the first one, as you were saying, came to mind. The first person I thought was Toni Morrison, because she's recently been in the news, famous author, and she was sort of used as this sort of like political pawn, critical race theory. Being a African American author, but her melding of sort of the African American experience with history and historical markers of sort of like being first person narratives is really powerful. The film 12 Years a Slave, that went back and looked at primary sources to sort of move the experience of slavery and first-person account in slavery. So there are many ways that sort of like the liberal arts and the study of history and literature is in what we consume, whether it be books or movies, music, video games. So the liberal arts are always present in all those things.
What would you say your favorite type of entertainment is to indulge in when learning about liberal arts? Would that be reading, movies, like you just mentioned? What would you say is your favorite to learn about?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I enjoy it all. I'm a big movie watcher, and I'll watch, I'll watch anything from, recently Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah,
and totally
Free Guy.
love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I haven't gone through the Academy Award list of movies yet this year, but I most certainly will do that. So I sort of like it from that. If I love a movie and there's a book, I'll go back and read it, or vice versa. But I always hold space to the movie and the book are going to be different.
Yeah.
So I will try to incorporate it all. Or if there's a beautiful piece of music, I'll listen to that. I love all the movement for Black Lives, the way that they merge art and activism and music together. I love all those. So
Yeah.
I love all those connections.
Would you say the idea of liberal arts has changed throughout maybe the past 10, 20 years? The idea of how useful it is, or maybe even the amount of people that have delved into the study of liberal arts? What would you say?
I would say it has changed because, of course, history changes. And one of the ways that it has started to change, and I think in very important ways, is when we think about literature. So we mentioned, and you mentioned a lot of names when, we spoke about Plato, Picasso, and Shakespeare. Very important seminal writers, but then what the liberal arts, I think, has been doing now for many years very well is to go back and think about that canon. So what are the voices that are missing, that are important? So I just mentioned Toni Morrison as being very, very important. So what other writers from ethnic groups, from genders, have not been included in the different disciplines in the liberal arts? So I think the liberal arts have been listening to that. And are going back and sort of like what voices have not been heard over the years. And liberal arts will continue to do that and sort of continue to think about the world, like I said, open space for different ways of thinking and being in the world.
So it's still growing, even though liberal arts has been around for who knows how long, it still will continue to grow.
Absolutely, because when we think about history, it was written a particular way by particular people, but there are many versions of history, whether 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, or even right now, and the liberal arts can and will be continuing to do that better job of thinking about historical moments from different perspectives.
Okay, thank you. This has been another edition of CCM All Access. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.